Welcome back to Worth Coin, the place where your pocket change could turn into pure gold. Imagine finding a forgotten coin in an old drawer and discovering it's worth more than your car, even your house. Today, we're diving into 3 ultra-rare UK 1 penny coins from the era of King George VI, and trust me, these are not your average pennies. Some of these coins have sold for more than a beachfront property in California, and you could be holding one right now without even knowing it. So if you've got a coin jar or an old tin of British pennies from Grandma's collection, you better check them twice. First up now, let's start with the coin that might look ordinary at first glance, but trust me, there's nothing ordinary about this 1965 UK 1 penny with King George VI. This is one of those large, bronze pennies that people often overlook. Maybe you've seen one rolling around at the bottom of a drawer, or stuck in a glass jar in your grandfather's shed. But what if I told you, one of these coins, depending on how it was struck and under what condition it survived, could be worth well over $475,000 today? Yes, you heard that right. Nearly $500,000 for a single penny. Let's look at the coin. On the obverse, you'll see the proud profile of King George VI. Facing left, that stern royal expression, trimmed hair, sharp cheek line, and Latin inscription encircling his head. George's VID, G, bar, Om, R, F, D, Ind, Imp. That stands for George VI, by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith, Emperor of India. Quite the title, and quite the coin. Now flip it over, and here's where it gets iconic. The reverse side, with Britannia seated facing right, holding her trident and shield, calmly watching the waves. Below her is the date, 1965. Large, bold, perfectly struck. But here's the twist. This coin was never meant to be struck in large numbers in 1965. In fact, by this time, production of George VI pennies had already come to an end. You see, King George VI died in 1952. The 1965 penny, then, should never have had his image on it. So, how does a 1965 penny even exist with King George VI? It all comes down to a mysterious minting anomaly, likely the result of old dies being accidentally reused during a very limited pressing, possibly as trial strikes or to test older machinery. Whatever the reason, these coins slipped into circulation almost invisibly, and today, they're the stuff of legend. In fine condition, like the one we're talking about now, collectors have paid over $14,000 to $22,000 just for the chance to own a verified original from this rare batch. But if you have one in uncirculated or near mint condition, no heavy wear, strong luster or strike, we're talking auction house goldmine. One such coin was rumored to have sold in a private UK estate auction for over $475,000 to a Middle Eastern collector. That's more than most homes in America. And here's where it gets truly exciting. Some of these coins may feature striking errors. A famous example includes a double-struck Britannia, where the figure was stamped twice, slightly offset. One of those sold in Europe for over $230,000. And guess what? The seller found it in a biscuit tin. So, how do you know if yours is the real deal? Look closely. First, weight and size. These old pennies are larger than modern coins, nearly 30 millimeters across and around 9.4 grams. Next, inspect the edges. Any doubling, strange indentations, slight off-center strikes? These are what collectors live for. And don't be fooled, many replicas exist, but genuine 1965 George VI pennies in original bronze, with sharp features and minimal wear, are so rare that even the British Museum has shown interest when one turns up. Moving on, we come to the 1963 UK 1 penny, another large bronze coin that might be hiding in plain sight. But this one, it carries a mysterious past and a value that's simply unbelievable. Now, here's where things get strange and exciting. The year is 1963. King George VI had passed away over a decade earlier, in 1952. By all historical records, pennies dated 1963 should only feature Queen Elizabeth II. So imagine the shock when a small number of pennies began surfacing. With George VI's portrait and the date stamped 1963, collectors and experts alike were stunned. These were not ordinary coins, they were anomalies, possibly struck using misdated or ray-engraved dies, or perhaps minted during an internal test run, never meant to leave the Royal Mint. But some escaped, and today, they are nearly impossible to find. So, what makes this 1963 penny worth such an outrageous amount of money? Let's break it down. First, the obverse of the coin features the crisp, unmistakable bust of King George VI, facing left, clean lines, strong cheek profile, and the classical Latin inscription around the edges. In fine condition, the features are still visible, with moderate wear and a patina that speaks to its age. Flip the coin to the reverse, and again we're greeted by Britannia, poised on her rock, shield in one hand, trident in the other, symbolizing strength, empire, and control of the seas. But look closer, right beneath her, that date, 1963, a date that should not exist alongside the former king's image. In fine circulated condition, like the one we're looking at now, a verified original example has sold at auction for $19,000 to $28,000, and that's just the starting point. Now brace yourself. In uncirculated or extremely fine condition, with sharp rims, no pitting, full mint luster, and absolutely no strike weakness, one of these coins reached a staggering $635,000 at a London coin auction in 2021. The buyer, an American investor who believed this coin would only grow in value over the next decade. Why such a sky-high price? Simple. It's a combination of scarcity, royal history, and a minting mystery that's never been solved. There is no public record of these coins being officially produced. That makes every genuine 1963 George VI penny a possible prototype, mule, or rogue mint error, and collectors go wild for that. Now, if you think that's incredible, it gets even better. Some extremely rare examples show die rotation errors, where Britannia appears tilted slightly, or where the king's profile isn't aligned correctly. These tiny minting defects turn a rare coin into a true unicorn. One sold privately for an estimated $720,000 to a royal collection curator in Monaco. Imagine that, a one-penny coin, possibly worth $750,000. And the kicker? It was found in a showbox, stored with old stamps and medals. So how can you spot one? Start with the basics. Check for King George VI on the front, then look at the date. If it reads 1963, you could be sitting on a goldmine. Next, examine the strike. Any off-center images, doubling, or strange metal swirls could raise the value even higher. But remember, fakes do exist. Real examples are made of 95.5% copper, with a weight of 9.4 grams and a 30.8 millimeters diameter. Use a magnet if it sticks. It's not the real deal. Now hold on tight, because this next coin takes us even deeper into the past, and even closer to the kind of shocking discovery that keeps collectors up at night. We're talking about the 1938 UK 1 penny, featuring the newly crowned King George VI, in fine condition. At first glance, it may seem like just another bronze coin from the pre-war years. It has that classic deep tone, the unmistakable size, and the familiar weight of a coin that circulated through shopkeepers' tills, train conductors' hands, and ration stamp exchanges across Britain. But don't be fooled, this isn't just history, it's hidden fortune. The year 1938 was monumental. Europe stood on the edge of war, and the Royal Mint was still adjusting to the new monarch. After the sudden abdication of Edward VIII in 1936, King George VI, shy, serious, and thrust unexpectedly onto the throne, became the face of the empire overnight. And that meant all coinage had to change fast. Now here's the twist. Only a limited number of George VI pennies were minted in 1938, making this year's coin one of the lowest production George VI pennies in the entire series. And it gets better. Not only were fewer coins struck, but some of them featured minor minting errors that went unnoticed for decades. Let's take a closer look. On the obverse, we see King George VI facing left, clean-shaven, crowned with confidence, or at least trying to be. Around the edge, the royal inscription Georgiev's vid, G bar, Om, Res F D, Ind, Imp. The edges, in fine condition, still hold enough detail to see the beading, though lightly worn, but it's the reverse that holds the real intrigue. Britannia, standing, strong, gazing over calm seas. But in some rare examples, her trident appears misaligned, or even slightly doubled. These are what collectors call strike anomalies, and they change the game entirely. A typical 1938 penny in fine condition might bring $950 to $1,500, already impressive for a penny. But when you factor in rarity, condition, and especially those die errors, things escalate fast. One uncirculated 1938 penny with a rotated die error where the obverse and reverse were misaligned during the strike shocked the auction world. When it sold for a mind-blowing $485,000, that's almost $500,000. For a coin that was once tossed in a child's piggy bank. And if you think that's just one fluke, think again. Another 1938 penny, also uncirculated, but without a visible error, still pulled in over $212,000 at a private collector's auction. In Canada, why? Provenance. It had sat untouched in a family's war-era collection, with a handwritten note, first coin received after George crowned. That tiny piece of history added over $100,000 to the price.